Welcome to House Rule, a podcast about role-playing. You're listening to episode number 20. This is your host, Ed, and I am joined by...
Lee.
Ebo.
This is Jeff.
This is Joe.
The Dream Team together again.
Yay.
We've got some real live content for this episode, so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, no undead content this time. It's a nice change of pace, really.
We've
had a lot of problems with our content, like infecting other people's content, and then it sort of like spreads in a really ugly way.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't happen this time.
It's almost as if, yeah. It's almost as if we have actually criticaled on this episode. It's weird. I don't know.
It's at least a threat.
It just feels right.
You took the one good joke that we had for the entire episode and you ruined it in the very beginning.
Yep, that's what I do.
Yeah.
It could have been really pro if we had waited until the end.
No more
people
funnies.
have been like, why didn't they mention it? And then we just dropped an awesome joke, but now we got nothing.
But since we screwed up the numbering after this episode, we got to wait for that unnatural 23.
Oh, that'll be glorious.
Yeah, I've been really hard up for gaming or gaming chatter just because of my recent zombie illness where I failed to run a game, so now I'm jonesing really hard.
Oh yeah, dude, Reddit's really pissed about that.
They hate me, yeah. Because I was The Walking Dead.
I also hate you because I haven't played in a little while.
Yeah, because
Rory was really like antsy in his pantsy about it.
Yeah, he called me. He said he looked to the sky and put his hands out and yelled, no. So.
I felt kind of bad because I waited a long time to tell you that I was sick, but I was really I believed that I was going to rally that the gods of D&D wouldn't let me be sick on the game night, but a couple of hours before the game would have started, I was just like, I had been getting steadily worse. So it was clear that whatever gods there are governing our games had abandoned / punished me. Probably the latter.
Probably Arathis.
Yeah, that guy's a tool.
Okay.
No, but like a big, well, not that big, but a pretty cool thing that I was excited about was there was a new release in the White Wolf World of Darkness game line, specifically Mage the Awakening, which is, of course,
probably the one we've played the most.
Yeah, very close to my my heart here. And I kind of hadn't been paying very close attention to their releases just because of immunizing myself against new shiny syndrome. But I feel like we've gotten far enough that it's okay to now talk about Imperial Mysteries, which just came out for Mage the Awakening. Well, came out last month.
Yeah, it's COD.
Well,
it's
yeah, it's So yeah, I don't know. We're gonna do a first read segment, which we haven't done in a while.
We at the very least we browsed it.
We have all read parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Give it the old college try.
I dare say I didn't quite get through every single word of it, but I did read the meat of the book and the majority of each of the chapters.
So the meat and part of the potatoes.
Yeah.
We left some of them on the side because they were kind of gross.
So yeah, for those of you who are not fully initiated in Mage the Awakening, Imperial Mysteries represents what I would call one of the last unexplored frontiers in the game, which is basically playing characters who have developed their arcana past the normal customary maximum of 5 dots to the point of 6 or more, thus giving them
godlike
fabulous
powers
and godlike cosmic powers, as well as somewhat different perspective.
A simple comparison for anyone who's mostly playing D&D. This is basically Mage's Epic Level Handbook.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is something that they kind of they mentioned it in the in the Mage core book, they had a section about, archmastery, as they call it, in Tome of the Mysteries, which was one of the more popular and awesome and unjustly out of print Mage supplements, where they basically explained how those high levels of Arcana work by saying that that the players shouldn't play them. They work mysteriously. There's all these different little obstacles and hoops, and basically anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like, really, really anything is possible. I mean, there's nothing that an archmage, or that archmages can't do, more or less.
Back to the D&D thing, it's like every single class gets wish.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, I guess there are this book as a concept and as a product has some distinct pros and cons, and I think that I'm going to cast out there for someone to name the chief con of the book itself, because I know that we're all thinking of it.
Yeah, the art.
Oh
the
boy,
art.
the art.
It's the cover.
Now, I would like everyone out there who's listening to this podcast to just do a Google of the World of Darkness Imperial Mysteries and see if you get the cover, because I would say the cover is a really good indicator as to the way the art goes for the rest of the book. The cover being the worst offender. No, don't get me wrong, at least the worst offender that I saw. But throughout the book is a wide variety of what seems like poorly scanned art from other books, along with a small amount of new art that is equally bad.
It's the guy from Ascension, or at least one of the guys from Ascension, and it reminds me a lot of the art from Ascension. So if you liked the old book, you might actually like this.
Basically, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, because I know that there were people whose job it was to create this art and organize it in the book, but I guess when Lee was suggesting that you Google the cover art, I'm going to say, like, spend a little while looking through the hits you get, and it's going to look like an official Mage book, but you're going to think that the illustration on the cover is like somebody's concept art that they came up with long before the book was supposed to come out. They're like, this is what I think it should look like, and there's no way that that's actually it, but that's actually it. That's the one.
It really does look like it's done in crayon.
A little bit.
I have a high degree of respect for somebody who can rock a crayon, but it just doesn't really captivate the senses in any way. Like, some of their books, the Mage line had really good cover art, like Astral Realms and Seers of the Throne were like really good cover art.
But this does not do justice to the soul-crushing, overpowered madness that you can gain access to in this book.
It's like
none of the art really in the book.
Some vines.
And I mean, I don't want to just hurt feelings, but at the same time, like, we always talk about the art in like the Paizo books, and it's always spectacular. So I mean, it's worth saying.
We've been really spoiled lately because we've been reading Paizo books, and going through those sorts of things, and Paizo puts an incredible amount of production value into their books in a lot of different ways. And, I mean, their books look great. And, I've never been a huge fan of the Mage art, but some of the art I liked. And, I always liked the cover art in particular because I thought that it was, especially for the Mage-related stuff, it usually presented, a pretty decent little idea of what's in there. You get, like, some mystery and stuff, or some, crazy, whacked-out power stuff, and I always thought that was pretty cool. This one seems like it's kind of a joke. Like they put it on there, and they're like, hey, look, that's how it's going out.
Yeah, I guess
can't do anything about it now.
My general impression, like, when I first familiarized myself with Mage the Ascension, I found that the artwork in those books tended toward, like, very conceptual and symbolic images, and you seldom got a picture of just a guy like shooting a fireball or transforming into a jaguar or something that you can do with the magic. And I found that very frustrating, particularly as I was much younger then, and I was just like, I want you to give me some food for thought for like what I'm supposed to be able to do in this game. And then I sort of got the impression that they were kind of changing course in Awakening, but I sort of feel like they failed to commit partway through the game line, and the books just sort of started being like these. Well, I mean, there weren't a lot of like really like the core book had some pretty, fascinating images of people flying and shooting things and changing corn into bees and melting walls and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But this book is partially about Ascension and no longer about Awakening. So I mean, it kind of makes sense that they're going a little more conceptual. I think that's probably what they're going for. I'm just not digging it, I guess.
Anyway, and I'm not going to say it was all bad. I thought some of the full page ones at the beginning of the chapters were presentable art. But yeah, okay. So that was
a lot of the stuff is kind of hit or miss. Like, I mean, there's definitely some good ones, but I'm looking at this one picture right now, and it's like this lady's face on the side of a building. It looks like somebody drew it with a really old Sharpie.
I know what one he's talking about.
That was kind of my main beef with the book, and like I said, I don't want to just be ripping them down to be.
Yeah, no, there is some good stuff in there. There really is. It's hit or miss.
But and particularly recycling the art kind of
bummed me out.
Yeah, there's not even that many pages of art in there, and they're really simple, like sketches.
It's only an 82-page book, so they didn't. I don't know. I felt like the presentation was distinctly lacking in a in a series of books that I thought were hit or miss kind of in the presentation in the first place. So.
Well, it bears mentioning, this is right after a bunch of writers got fired, right?
Yeah, they fired a huge amount of people from White Wolf Publishing and that sort of thing that were associated with that game, the MMO that's not going to happen. So yeah, that's what actually was my biggest surprise about this book, was that they did not swing for the fences, so to speak. Their next book after that was almost an extreme niche book, and
that is weird,
and not a big ticket item.
Well, I think they sort of had their publishing schedule set ahead of time, and I think what I have gathered from what I've been paying attention to in terms of their current model, it seems like a lot of what they're doing is centered around getting a developer and then essentially getting freelance writers to actually generate the prose. And so like the developer has the added challenge of basically getting the content that the book needs from people who don't even really work there.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to mention is I've brought up a mage luminary named Dave B. This is his online handle.
Oh yeah,
who
on RPGNet
has done a number of excellent actual plays, and he's actually one of the two writers for this book. He's kind of taken his being awesome at Mage into being awesome at writing Mage books.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
I like his actual plays. I've read 2 of them.
Well, yeah, I mean
and they're pretty awesome.
He's got several games in several parts, so I haven't finished the last or the bigger one, but anyway, the point is that he did a lengthy Q&A on the White Wolf website forums about this book. So I would say honestly, I found that to be almost as engaging as the book itself, just because to segue into the next thing that I would call a downside, even though it's kind of on the fence about the book, is that it's really hard to understand.
Yeah, I know. It's obtuse.
Even for somebody who really likes Mage, it's difficult.
There's complicated wording in a lot of places, and they go about like term dropping at an almost ludicrous pace.
That was
my point. In every paragraph, in every sentence, almost you're going to have terminology that you're going to want to look up somewhere else in the book, and per normal White Wolf books, it is impossible to find those things.
Is there a wiki somewhere because what it was with some of the stuff, I go to Google and I type in, like Adama, Adama, and like I don't get anything.
Yeah.
They
made up a lot of new terminology for it also, I think.
No.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole new set of jargon that I need to learn, and it's kind of hard to just turn to the like the new spells and like read through and be like, oh, no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Like, skip to the cool part.
I really sort of thought that this book added as almost half again as much jargon as existed in the Mage line already.
It
was just sense for the scope of the book because it's huge.
Here's one thing about that though, and there's a lot of things that I would not use this book probably running, but one thing that they did is like the immediate problem that you see when you talk about like epic level mages basically is that you can't challenge them. There's nothing for them to do in the real world. And so they added a whole nother set of environments, and that's where all these terms are coming from. So you can actually make a game to play a party of archmages in.
Right.
And so I think it's good that they went in a completely new direction. I don't like that they defined all that stuff because I love the mystery of it is impossible to get to the supernal realm. I love that. Yeah. I don't like that this book says, oh, you can do it, here's how you do it. I don't like that. But I do think that if they were going to make the game possible to play a party of archmages, that they had to add a lot of new stuff because the real world can't challenge them, I guess.
And see, here's part of my problem with it is, aside from the fact that I've always had a major beef with White Wolf books for being impossible to organize or impossibly organized.
The classic lack of index.
Why no index? Seriously. But like I said before, it's an 82-page book. And they went about defining, seemingly pretty loosely, but still defining it, the supernal realm and the things in it and the people in it, etc. And 82 pages does not seem like enough for that. Like, it seems like they needed twice as much book and better organized in the first place to get that stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess
that's how I felt about it.
I don't want to go over like a detailed walkthrough of the entire book, but just to give a general idea of the way the book is set up. It's like basically 4 chapters. The first which details how you transition from being a regular mage into an archmage. They go into a certain degree of detail, even though the process is generally subjective. They basically tell you exactly how it works. Yeah. Then the second one describes essentially the new setting that you enter into when you cross the threshold from regular to epic. The third chapter is like basically a description of characters and beings that exist on the same scale as archmages. Basically the other groups, different rivalries, and also godlike spirits and other beings. And then the fourth chapter, and this is what really galls me, and I honestly have read this one the least because number one, it's like I don't want to know, and then also it's more ponderous than any of the other chapters combined. But it's essentially a chapter about ascension, which this is probably coming from somebody who started with Mage the Ascension, the game, but I just feel like having that in there makes me, uneasy that you can just do it. Like it's more subjective than just simply becoming an archmage. So it's kind of like they tell you how it works, but so what? You still have to, play it. But at the same time, I kind of wouldn't have wanted to know about it if they hadn't printed it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that bugged me.
And then they have an appendix with additional rules for something they call Imperium, which if you've had a hard time understanding any of the rest of this book, just forget it. Don't read it.
No, that's exactly what happened. I got to the index, or I got to that appendix, and I've been browsing and trying to find what words mean and etc. And when I got to that index, I actually turned around and just started scrolling back up. I was like, we are done.
I have to assume that they put that in an appendix instead of in a chapter, because the way it is written is not to be understood.
No, you go there with a purpose and you leave not properly
I
understanding.
do think the Imperium rules are well, it's essentially a more mechanical chapter than most of the others, and it is interesting, but it's the sort of thing that, you know, and again, this isn't a really good review technique, but I personally would not want to play it.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's actually playable. I mean, it's
okay.
Well, you have to the clear idea of it, and you know, take this for anyone who wants to upgrade their mage game. The clear idea of it is that you're basically playing a different game. I mean, you're playing in a whole new setting. Like regular mortals are basically toys. Like the scale on which you can mess with mortals is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you can't even talk to them on the same level because you have such a deep understanding of the universe. It's just like, oh, you guys.
I mean, you're only playing. I mean, you're playing mage in, you know, in practically in name only. When you sit down to play this thing. I mean, the powers you wield are on a completely different scale. You know, the worlds you travel in are, you know, unknowable, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
they really did put all the stops, and like I feel like, at least now after reading this, I understand more why in Mage you can't just make things permanent, and why there's all these things. They're so very limited, because now that I really look at it and see, you know, like how you can just go ahead and make something happen forever, or like erase an entire piece of history, you know, like it's too much power to hold.
Well,
in their defense, they do give about 4 distinct different ways to use this book in a mage game.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that, like, I think that playing an Archmaster Chronicle is, if you have the right group and the right mindset, it could be cool. On the other hand, for my money, I think that it would feel weird or disingenuous almost to transition an entire game full of regular mages into archmages and then play them as a group still, just because I feel like the way they describe it is like, you know, it's such an exclusive club. Like, if you were going to run this game, you would basically want to populate the universe with every single archmage, because there's so few of them that you can just count them off. But at the same time, what are the odds that 5 mages who awakened roughly the same time, formed a group, started learning magic, and then all of a sudden they're all archmages together? It's like, you know, like, you know, every one of your friends went to the same elementary school, and then the same high school, and then they went to the same college, and then they all got married to a group of sisters, and now they're all living in a giant apartment building together.
Yep. All just having the same
degree. And then also they join the Illuminati together,
sure,
and etc.
I'm not saying that it's a perfectly thorough metaphor. I'm just saying it's so weirdly unlikely.
Yeah,
that they would all ascend to that level at the same time.
You can't have a game where just one guy becomes an archmage. I mean, you can, I guess,
but
it seems like such a.
We've been mainly kind of bashing it so far, just because it's so bash-worthy. But I do have to say that, like, in its defense, I have had so many ideas that I am so into just by looking through it. There are a lot of, like, really awesome ideas in it.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
It is. Yep. It has a lot of cool, you know, like creative, like over the toppy stuff, or stuff that you like. One thing I like about reading really, really powerful stuff, or really crazy stuff, is that it often gives you, you know, just a little bit better understanding as to what's behind the world, sort of thing. Like, as a, you know, speaking from a GM standpoint, it gives you cool ideas for, like, antagonist groups, that sort of thing, and it lets you do what I think White Wolf is almost glorious about, is it lets you pull the awesome name drop, where you drop, you know, just like for anyone who's watched Doctor Who, in a lot of episodes of Doctor Who, they'll drop one word that is referencing, you know, like the overall plot of the season, and everyone in the show is really confused about it, but everyone watching on the side is like, oh, I wonder what that word has to do with everything else that's going on. And like this book has a lot of those words.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the number one enemy of that innovation is that they do go into very detailed explanations of a lot of these things.
Yeah.
But like even on the other side of that, like they have the descriptions of the different ententes. I think I'm pronouncing that word correctly, which are like, archmage organizations. Basically, they're less organizations and more like philosophical partnerships, I guess, something like that. But they're very different in a lot of ways, and very the same in a lot of others than the groups at lower levels. But what you wind up with is each of them has they have like Aswadim legends, and basically it's like 3 unbelievable story hooks for each one of these groups. And what I like that they do is that they sort of, given the mutable nature of the universe represented by this book, essentially, some or all or none of them might be true. So you can basically take like, I don't know, they have this just like a description where I cannot remember which group it is now, and I don't want to spend any time looking it up, but they're describing how like like perhaps nobody in the universe is alive except for 5 individuals, which represent the watchtowers. Those are the only actual people, and everybody else is just like emanating off of them as like their reflections. And it's just a completely different concept of the universe than the default one in the setting. And it just kind of got me wondering, like, why more of my mage characters or NPCs aren't more skeptical about the commonly accepted mythology. Just like, what if it were possible? Or, what if we're not even really here?
Yeah. I think one of the things that Mage has always done to me, and this book does to me more than most, is that I hate, like, it gives me this idea that I would be playing a character who is not just a little smarter than me or a little more philosophical than me, but like more of those things to a degree that I don't think I can necessarily accurately play that character very well. Like, even high level mages, all I can think is, wow, my character has got to know so many things that I cannot possibly comprehend, and I can, like philosophical ideas that I know my character would probably have, but like Lee has no business talking about. And I feel like these characters, characters in this over the top setting would be so much more of that it would actually be kind of difficult to role play them.
Yeah, you'd really have to spend some time reading heavily into all the books if you really wanted to get something out of it, because I feel like if you want to play a game like this, it can't be so much about casting really awesome magic. It has to be a lot more about the political play between the different players involved. And I don't even know that you could have something where everyone would be working together so much as like working possibly towards a common goal, but not necessarily in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
They've got this Pax Arcanum thing now where you basically can't cast a spell interferes with any other Archmage spell, or you get punished for it, which is crazy to me. I mean, there's you can definitely still dispel things, but that act in and of itself is like like this old boys club that you belong to will just instantly be like, okay, that's it, you're done. Nope, you're out.
Well, and I find that the Pax Arcanum before this book came out seemed a lot more interesting, but now it's kind of like this cosmic bummer.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
The idea is that you have all of this unlimited power to just do almost whatever you can think of, whatever you want. But you kind of only can do it in your own house.
Yeah, exactly. You can do whatever you want. You just can't fuck with anybody else's shit.
Every archmage has this realm or series of realms that is their own, and nobody else can go in if they don't want them to, because that's against the rules. And you can do whatever you want in there, even if it's really powerful magic. And as long as you're not taking it out of there and doing something particularly destructive with it, basically the idea is that everybody, all the archmages agreed that if anybody tries to destroy the universe, they'll all stop them. And it kind of, it basically, there's a lot more to it than that, but it's essentially like, basically in a world where there's someone or some people who can, reverse time, you can't get away with anything unless they want you to.
Mm-hmm.
Or unless they just don't care. And so the whole thing is just kind of like everybody's working together, or everybody's completely apathetic, or everybody just, countermands what each other is doing. And so it's like
it just becomes this big cyclical bunch of nothing.
Like if you wanted to run a game with this, you would need players who read the book and were very interested in the setting and the moving towards ascension, and not people who just kind of wanted to run around and shoot around spells all day.
Right.
Yeah.
Not give a crap.
It'd be a lot more.
This is definitely not that type of setting, I think. But I do think the book holds enough of the information that you can pass, because you don't have to be intelligent or wise to be an archmage, but you do have to have goals.
Yeah.
That's why you're an archmage anyway.
With the.
I mean, people don't just get there.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's it.
It seems strange too that like you can't. If it seems as though if you want to play the game, and you want to be able to have access to all the cool, powerful stuff, you're pretty much just a forever alone. Like you're just you're in your house and doing all this cool stuff, and you're like, oh man, this is so neat. I made copies of myself that can go and do things, but I can't let them go and do anything because then I'll fuck everything up.
Well, I mean, I think the idea, if you were going to run a game in it, I mean, if you ever wanted to have any jolly cooperation, it would have to be, somebody who gets around the system. It would be a lot of Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty sort of business,
Mm-hmm.
And like that's cool, but I don't know. I could see it being a short game or a long political game for people who are interested in that sort of thing. But I don't know. It doesn't. It doesn't seem interesting to me in the way that Mage is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I wanted to play a political game, I don't know if I would choose this book.
Yeah, I think like you can pretty much just wish anything you want to happen, no matter what you take. But yeah.
It seems more useful for a GM to read, to, as Ed said, get ideas, and to have a stronger view of the world and setting, I guess, so they can have like this archmagic stuff going on in the background, and maybe that will seem more genuine to the players, but I don't think it will. I don't think that will seem more genuine to them because it's the one by the book, or if there's just mysterious archmagic stuff going on before this book came out. I don't think the players will notice.
I mean, I think if it were me running a game and things were progressing toward the level where the mage characters were either advanced enough to start pursuing archmastery themselves if they wish it, or to the point where their actions and their rivalries might be at a level where archmages would be interested in either intervening or enlisting their help in some way. I think I would definitely look at this book for inspiration, but I can't say that I would want to use everything in it as written as like rules. I just sort of feel like some of those things ought to be mysterious, even if the player characters can look at this book and read how it works. Maybe it doesn't.
It sort of strips away that valuable layer of mystery that that Mage has always had.
They put a lot of stuff in there that it's like you didn't even get that in Mage, the Awakening. There was just a lot of things that were
one like
nebulous.
Seven
up
dots
to the GM.
7 dots of time. Here's what you can do to time travel in the past, and exactly what happens if you do this, this, and this. It's like, really? Come on. That could have been interesting.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Just tell me I can do it.
One other example of something that was kind of it was kind of like it wasn't really a bubble burst for me. I was more pleased to see this than I was displeased, but it was just like it was one of those things where it was kind of like an oh yeah, by the way, and here's a bit of information if you were stumped by it. But like one of the most mysterious things in the setting of Mage is, I mean, in the cosmology, I guess I'll say, not necessarily the setting. One of the most mysterious places is there's one of the many worlds that they refer to as the lower depths, and it's like briefly mentioned in the core book a couple of times in other sources, Tome of the Watchtowers, and maybe I don't remember where else, Summoners, I think. And it's like this really creepy, mysterious place, and they don't ever really tell you what it is. And now in this book, they just kind of mentioned offhand exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like it is kind of an unwelcome peek at the man behind the curtain. You know, it's kind of like, oh,
maybe I didn't see that guy.
Cannot unsee.
I mean, I appreciate what they were trying to do. It just seems like it was kind of an unnecessary book.
I think that it was an unnecessary book, but that I do appreciate what they have done.
I'd agree with that.
I definitely I like the idea because it's a completely different world, and it's I don't know if it's more political than Mage the Awakening, but it's kind of more forced into that direction. I think it's more
conceptual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in Mage, you could toss fireballs and everyone be having a jolly good day if you wanted to. But
the game, I think of it as conceptual because the game becomes less about what is going on, and it becomes entirely about what your character wants to accomplish.
Yep.
What a given character wants to accomplish, and more so how they think that the universe should be and what they're going to do about it. And in that you get a good measure of politics just because you have to play the game in order to get your way. But I don't think it's more political than the below 6 Mage game.
No.
It's just different politics, really.
Well, trash talking aside, though, there are some really cool abilities. Have you guys seen the section on I believe it's excision?
Uh-huh.
So
there's
as an archmage, you can like give these incredible buffs to people, you know, just like super ridiculous stuff that no one should have access to.
Right.
But excision is the opposite of that. So you can for example, use death magic to remove someone's ability to die.
Use magic to kill death, in other words.
Yeah, you can actually use matter magic to make something completely indestructible.
Remove their sympathetic ties.
They basically, I mean, I was never a scholar of the 13 practices, which I feel like are an interesting and neat addition, but I just never quite got to learning them all and exactly what they do. But they basically just added 5 additional practices above level 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's 4 or 5. I'm not able to list them all, so I'm not quite sure. But yeah, basically you get like dynamics, entities, excision, jobbity hoobity, and then whatever the last one is. And so it's like
close enough.
Excision, or like whatever, entities and excision, I believe, are the ones that let you. The ones at level 7, which let you basically give and take away supernatural powers pertaining to your arcanum, just however you want.
There's some dick stuff in here too. You can use prime magic to remove someone's ability to spend or gain mana.
You can use some arcanum or other to remove someone's ability to spend or gain willpower.
Transfiguration was the other one.
You can.
My favorite thing of all of the abilities that I saw in that book was they go through a decent description of how you can basically use a pretend ritual whatever to influence people on a ridiculous scale. Like if you have 9 dots in something, you can change the religion of the entire world, for example. By getting like 56 S's on a ritual spellcasting or something. I don't know, it's ludicrous, impossible.
Just Jedi, like, this is not the religion you're looking for.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's ridiculous. like I love the idea, and you know, sort of like what Ed was saying, you know, where it sort of gives you ideas. Like the smaller scale ones are like, you know, you could I think one of the smaller examples was change what people watch when there's nothing else on TV. You know, or make them choose what kind of socks they buy, and like just the whole, like that whole idea, you know, that they can covertly influence people or overtly influence people, is, you know, either in large or extremely small situations, is just like such a cool idea to me. Like if you were a really go get 'em nice guy archmage, you could you could eliminate racism and you could just be done with it. You could get rid of cancer. I don't know. I mean, that's outside the boundaries of that. You get the idea.
The appendix on Imperium, which, as I understand it, it's sort of like different and extra awesome magical powers that you can wield, which is basically it's both more distasteful to me for the possibility of playing it, and more interesting to me for the different plot fodder it yields. But it's essentially, when you have the ability to go into the supernal realms, you can make things true in the entire world. So you basically go there with certain preparations and enact rites that change the entire reality that we live in, or that real people live in. And so it's like, it's distasteful to me as a player, because I feel like it would be both complicated and also it kind of wrecks the immersion in the world, or in the fallen world anyway, to know that what we consider in the real world to be the real world is basically just the current revision. And there might have been one where, where the Nazis won World War II, or where there's fish that can walk on land, and just I don't know, I don't want to play in a game where we're so far from the real world, but at the same time I don't like the idea that the real world is the game that's so far from the former world.
Well, it's weird too, because with most of these powers, like the alternate timeline for one, it seems like, the way I read it, like if you go back and you change a serious event, even if you inadvertently, kill people by doing that, it's just like killing someone with magic, and you get some serious penalties for doing that. The mental
paradox.
Well, not just paradox, but you go to Crazy Town.
Yeah.
It's extremely sinful to do so, and so if you're a time mage, and you go back and you change one small thing in the past and it affects all of these people, it seems to me the obvious math that gets done is you go batshit crazy and can't do anything anymore, and you're just this super powerful being that's just a nut job. And there's a lot of that with each of these powers that I read, even the one where you can create a nuke.
I actually, when Ed was talking about that, using, sort of revision-y, world-changey stuff, Rory and I have had several discussions about it, making games based on, or making a session or a campaign world based on, board games and that sort of thing. I think it'd be cool to try to get, everybody who's playing the game to, be like, okay, guys, pretend you're an archmage and make one change to the world. and give it to me anonymously, and then we'll just play in that world, like with all the changes from the players, and you would only know the change that you made, and not the ones that anyone else made.
I would play in that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be a really terrific world to play in, because
mine would just be
it would be so bizarre.
A simple change. Everyone would be wearing kilts, no matter who you are.
Wherever you go.
But like
just
you
kilts,
play
and no one
Magic,
knows.
Like I think the book is almost like it has an almost beautiful ability to inspire cool ideas for ways to ruin mage characters' lives. But also, like that just popped into my head, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to play this now. Ed has to run this. That would be awesome.
Another thing that they did that I appreciated was, despite not really needing it, they kind of added in rules for basically how you get the stats for godlike entities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the same as it ever was, where it's like, arbitrarily difficult to beat, but they had to add it in just because now that you can fight them, there has to be a way about it. And while I don't think it's necessary for most games, I like the idea of having it in there just because it's like, what if, even not non-archmages, what if you just got like enough people together, enough masters coordinating? Like I like the idea of knowing that it's possible to bind
to dent God.
Yeah, basically to achieve the unobtainable, to defeat a godlike being. I like that they have mechanics for them, even though they're still absurdly powerful.
And you'll never ever get enough mages working together.
You probably don't need the stats. Yeah. You probably aren't going to need them even in an Archmage game, but it's just like, you're like, well, I do have a lot of dice here, and I can do anything.
Yeah, why did I buy these? Why did I buy ADD 10s? Oh, this is why.
Oh, yes, I'm going to buy Luna, and I'm going to throw her into the sun. Whatever. No big deal.
I guess my big thing about this book, from reading through it, is that I had a lot of respect and interest in all of the mystery of Awakening, and it was just the coolest thing in the world that there were certain things that not even the publishers of the game were willing to say how they work, and it just left it open and made that mystery extremely awesome and genuine, and they can never go back now.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
I do agree with you. I also do maintain that there are still some things that are mysterious. Basically, they've given a comprehensive basically description of how it might have happened, how everything might work, but they did sort of leave themselves certain outs. Like they don't ever specifically say what causes people to awaken. They give a lot of explanations that archmages have come up with that seem like the truth or possible versions. I mean, we know the mechanics for how a mage will cross the threshold and become an archmage, but we don't really know why. It's like, I agree that they pulled the curtain back. We've seen the guts of it. They laid their soul bare, but at the same time, there's still unanswered questions, or at least truths that aren't necessarily thoroughly explored or objectively true. Just things like they never quite explained exactly what causes people to awaken. They didn't describe the supernal realms in lavish detail, at least what is actually going on there. Although there is certain descriptions of what it's like and what experiences you will have there, but only really so much as is necessary to actually play or use the book. It didn't really offend me how much they revealed, with a couple of little quirky exceptions, but generally not.
To me, it seemed the problem was that it seemed to take away a little bit from the characters that aren't archmages aren't going to be archmages. Now I'm going to know what I don't know in the normal games, but I know it's not necessarily true, but even the character's not going to know either. I just am going to have their interpretation of what it actually is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can come up with a setting and tell you that something is impossible and tell you that it's super mysterious. It's so much more effective if it's like, that's the whole reason you're playing a pre-existing setting, is because someone else came up with all that, and it seems more real to the players. It seems more set in stone to learn about something that's actually has a place in the book. I don't know.
You know, one thing that does actually excite me a lot about this game, as somebody who's been really into vulgar magic, is magic.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Cast something in the material realm without just getting loads of fucking paradox. It's great.
Actually, I thought that the new stuff that they give you for paradox is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
For anyone who is into
Derangement?
derangements or horrifically mauled, or if they think paradox is hilarious. The new stuff in there is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's like if you get a manifestation for an arcanum that's level 7 or higher, it's just like...
Oh my God, dude.
Is that the one that sends you to the abyss?
I think
there's one of them that sends you straight to the abyss.
I don't remember. They all pretty much seem the same at that level. It's like it's either your personal road is invaded by a godlike abyssal manifestation, or you get dropped into the abyss and a godlike abyssal manifestation will hold you for ransom or kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like, granted, they're pretty indestructible, but there are still some things that an archmage can do to get in way over their head.
Yeah.
And
which they should be able to do.
Paradox is still the best way to accomplish that.
Oh yeah, for sure. They gave a short list of things that like archmages are immune to, like they can never have their souls stolen and that sort of thing, and the rates they buy stuff is evened out. What actually excited me more, like as a player, the thing that excited me more about any of the stuff I read in there is the things that archmages can do with arcana that are 5 dots or lower. Like it's they literally just take all the bars off, and it's no holds, man. You can just do whatever you want. Like combine 5-dot things all day. Make everything last forever, no problem. Cast extended spells, you can cast them instantly. It's no big deal. Like
it's just like, hey, I wanna blow someone's head off with fire. You know what? We'll just give you way more damage for no reason.
Yeah,
just
we'll let you do that from anywhere in the universe. It's no thing.
Yeah,
that's the sort of stuff I expected when I went into this book, and what I should have expected is much more meta stuff, But what I expected was bigger fireballs, more, explosion-y, action, flying, time travel-y, teleport-y stuff. And of course, what I got was not quite that, and it's a lot more meta.
Although one thing I haven't talked about with the the limitations that are few in this book, they talk about needing a lot of quintessence as well as a very specific item.
That's what a quintessence is in this scenario.
I guess I thought that quintessence was the raw magic of the world, not because for the matter one gives an example of if you're going to make a tool, you need to have the first one that was ever created. That'd be kind of hard to find, even if you were an archmage,
Basically, I guess the concept of quintessence is each time you want to work an imperial spell, you have to essentially discover a mystery and then incorporate its discovery into your being, and that's what finding or creating these quintessences is supposed to represent.
Oh, okay.
And they're talking.
You also spend experience points to cast spells.
They describe some of the one of the I cannot remember which one of the little groups it is where they're describing which quintessences they favor, and they were saying that they some of these people will chain imperial spells. Essentially, they'll use an imperial spell to create an impossible object which they need as the quintessence for the next spell they want to use. And so it's just like, yeah, you can get pretty complicated in there, but yeah, I guess that's pretty much what the game is at that level, is like, incorporating these mysteries however you can get them.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of rules presented in the book, but playing a game like that would actually, I'm sure, be fairly light on rules. And it would be a lot of the GM asking you for nebulous rolls.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can. There's certain things when you can do anything that no longer bear rolling for. Like you can. You're a Archmaster of Space. You no longer have to roll really to teleport yourself around to places you've been before. It's just like walking inside of your own house.
Mm-hmm. Get out of shape really quick that way,
Yeah.
Yes, you get fat.
Or you could probably just use your level 6 life to keep it trim.
And immortal.
Yeah, well.
You may as well be. Everyone else is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the point I'm trying to make with this is that you should definitely go into this book. If you're going into it as a player, don't go into it expecting to be able to cast bigger fireballs, because that's not the sort of game you're probably going to get.
Although they will be very big.
That's true. If you do decide to cast a fireball, unlikely as it may be,
you can cast the biggest one there is.
You cast a really enormous fireball. You can really make the sun blush.
There's actually a forces spell in here called Great Balls of Fire, right?
Yeah.
Of course there is. That's the only thing forces people care about.
I want a bigger fireball.
Yeah, I don't know. They kind of
I want to pull down the moon.
I guess I knew that the effects were going to be spectacular going into this, but I remember reading. I'm not sure if any of you might have seen a Mage the Ascension book called Masters of the Art.
Oh God!
Oh yes.
Basically the same book, but for Ascension. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like that book. The effects you could get at above level 5 were more important in that game, maybe.
I guess I don't have the perspective. What exactly do you mean?
Well, I mean, I think part of it was that lacking the descriptive quality of the practices. They basically had a whole bunch of different effects for every sphere from level 6 to 9. And so it was just like each one had its discrete increments of what would get better. The only ones that I remember being really unfair were in that system back in Ascension, where Paradox was points. You could use Prime to manipulate Paradox, and it was just it was just so chintzy. It was like, oh,
Prime is already the best.
Well,
everyone knows that Prime is the coolest.
It's been years, but I thought Masters of the Art was more crunchy and more limited.
The one that I really liked, and that I think that this book has the potential for, was they were if you got up to level 9 in Forces, and that was what got me on the subject, was I felt like Forces was kind of underrepresented in the descriptions of higher level effects in Imperial Mysteries, and I think part of that is because you don't really need a lot of detailed descriptions. It's you can make every type of force already, but now it's you can get some dangerous things and some interactions. Anyway, the point is that in Masters of the Art, I remember the description for level 9 in Forces was basically you could create new forces, which essentially would basically mimic the effect of other spheres at high levels. You could create... The example they gave, which was clearly a joke, was a force that removes the distinctions of gender. Whereas, you a force that does something absurd.
It's just a magic wand to do whatever you want.
Sure, you can still do that. But, it's just
life magic is that easy.
Cheer, whereas now it's more it's less of each arcanum description and each of their powers, and more of here's basically what you can do with 6, with 7, with 8.
Yeah.
9. And I think that was one of the most underwhelming things, was that level 9 is one practice. It's very broad strokes. They don't really describe it in any detail because it's kind of pointless. It's like you can basically temporarily give yourself the ability to perfectly do anything related to the Arcana.
So, which is the vaguest
so much
thing.
what you can't do, so much as what you want to.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I guess it's interesting conceptually because it's like, you're basically turning the every use of the Arcanum from top to bottom into like your like a bodily function for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you can get a little bit more bang for your quintessence buck by using transfiguration to then move the earth in your in whatever way you see fit. But it's kind
I mean, if you've ever wanted the earth to orbit your penis, now it's possible. Congratulations, Joe.
Yes, my penis electrons are in your brain.
Oh, man. But yeah, okay, so basically, to kind of get toward a conclusion here, I would say that my earlier assertion that the book was not necessary, but that I do appreciate it, I'll stand by that. I really did enjoy it, and I will definitely link to that one forum thread I was talking about, because I feel like even though it was more of a Q&A and not so much like errata or specificity, the the writers of the book did give a lot of insight into what certain things are supposed to mean. And while a lot of the questions in the post were, "Can I do this?" and the answers were invariably, "Sure you can," there were just a lot of things that were kind of, like we were describing the kind of dense nature of the code word dropping, and it helps to have a little bit more explanation and detail in that. And I think that they definitely offer up a good slice of that for a lot of the areas. So I will definitely link to that. And yeah, all in all, I would say that
I'll probably end up reading that.
Like most new things, I went into this expecting to like it, and I wound up liking it.
I went in this expecting to hate it, and I wound up being kind of neutral on it. So I would say that's more or less a win for them. But I had very low expectations. That is, like, in terms of content and quality, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like some of the things they did. I dislike some of the things they did. I hated the art, and I mean, as a tool, I can hardly imagine ever using it as a player. And I think it would be pretty fun to peruse for interesting ideas as a GM.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool material in this book, but I just don't see it as playable.
I guess I try to keep an open mind. I probably have the most negative attitude, where I think this damages the brand to a certain extent, but it's probably also the last book they're going to release for Mage, is my guess. So it's probably okay.
I don't think it goes up from where they are now. I think mages that can unmake vampires, and you're pretty much at the top of the list for pissing off their fans on that one, I think.
But I did like at the beginning of the book, they specified, we weren't sure whether or not we wanted to just make archmages a real thing and pretty much blow everything else out of the water. And then we were like, nah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I liked that. That was one of the things that I liked. They're like, well, Mage they clearly have world changing abilities, and we haven't fleshed out the werewolf or the vampire ones, but that doesn't mean that they're also not there. So do what you want with all this stuff that you have now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do what you want with those.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Maybe we will or won't bring out books.
I have to worry about werewolves or vampires.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of a sad thing almost that I don't want them to be all done making Mage books, but at the same time I'm having a hard time coming up with an additional Mage book that I would want to actually get.
Yeah, anything that would be compelling, considering the stuff that they've already got and the new book now. I can't see a way for them to expand
There's actually
without jumping the shark even
there's actually
further.
a third higher level. It's called Mage the Ascension. It just rolls back around.
That's the Super Saiyan book.
Dude, somebody is
Mage the have already
doing
ascended.
that.
No. It's you awaken from your prison of a super powerful world you're in, and find out that you're one of a few people awake in the real world.
Yeah.
Oh
There it
man,
is.
it's the
You have
Matrix.
ascended into being awakened.
Now you're just a World of Darkness character again.
It's
That is like
the Matrix.
I feel bad. Bad for them because they're
Mage
losing
tricks.
like an exponential amount of people each time they awaken.
Yes.
There's gonna be one person left, and that guy's gonna be the winner.
Put me back in. Damn it.
World of Darkness, forever alone.
There, we've solved it.
Yeah, I do think there actually is a little bit of a possibility for books that are almost like the D&D planar books, where they talk about the different realms. You know, there's like the whole spirit world thing, and there's a supernal realm, and I mean you could even touch on some of the material stuff too. But I don't know, there's not a whole lot more to talk about.
I gotta agree with you there, and I really hope that they don't. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they've basically adopted a business strategy of let's not just produce books at a set pace because we have to. Let's only bring out books that ought to be made. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, I don't know when the next one is going to be. I don't know when they're going to decide that they need a new Mage book.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I already have everything I need, but I don't know. I like new shiny things. It makes me...
It's safe to say
Of course
that
you do, Ed. You like new shiny things more than anybody else.
I'm like
Mage is probably the most successful fun we've had with White Wolf.
Oh, you definitely.
Oh yeah, and
cool.
I like Mage.
I don't want
I'll
to
like
end.
Mage forever.
Never ever.
Yeah.
All right, so we all love Mage, and that's the end of the story.
That's it.
Yeah, drop us a line at podcast@houserule.com. We'd love to hear either what you think about the game.
Yeah,
if you've actually, oh my god, if you've played with this, please tell us, because I would love to hear about it.
I'd also
why
really
we're
interested.
wrong on our.
For that matter, I would
beliefs.
love to hear about anything. So if
I'd
you
be-
send me an email, I promise to both read it on the podcast and also, either, lay myself out there to be made fun of, which I'm sure I do already.
And Ed will say something in a silly accent.
Oh, he will. For every
Yeah.
single email we get, Ed will say something in a silly accent.
in a
A
different,
different
accent.
silly accent.
You might even
Got it.
read one of the emails.
Yeah, I really
in
want
a
you guys to
different
hear his
accent.
Haitian accent. He really did a bang up job on it.
Pretty good.
Speaking of
It was good,
things
actually.
that Ed does, here's a fun little bit for at least
Uh-oh.
us here at the podcast. I've gone into my data disks to go find some music for something I did recently, and I found a folder called Edisms.
Oh, you did.
You have them.
I was
Those
looking
are-
for those. We were talking
Okay.
about them.
So
Of them.
those are going up on the website. So I'll try to enjoy some Edisms from the distant past.
They're for
There's
you
some
because you
gems.
deserve to hear them, and they're for us because we need them on the internet.
Yes. For eternity.
You guys
Yo,
are
you're
trying
awesome.
Otherwise,
Send
we'll
me
lose them
my
again.
voice.
Yeah. Send them to Ed. Send your own copy to Ed.
All right. Well, I'm done. This is over.
I'm finished.
You can
My
stick
life is
the
over.
fork in me.
I think
I
that
am
was a
done.
success.
Yeah.
I would like.
Well-
I personally would love to hear anything you have to say. If you are one of the people who did the art for this book, I would like for you to contact me so that I can maybe eat some crow. Yeah, anything like that. So
We'll buy you a beer.
definitely.
Wasn't
Yeah,
bad.
keep in touch, and we will catch you next time.
Peace.
Later.
Bye.
Yep. talking about poop, I can't not laugh.
I was only